Hi, I'm Bakhtiar Sanov and you're watching A News. Let's see the headlines. United Nations Security Council discusses the ongoing crisis in Syria following the collapse of Bashar al-Assad's government. Suspect in United Health executive Brian Thompson's killing arrested in Pennsylvania and faces 5 charges. Austria lifts veto on Bulgaria and Romania fully joining Schengen area. Members of the United Nations Security Council discussed the ongoing crisis in Syria following the collapse of President Bashar al-Assad's government. They urged all sides in the country to prioritize the interests of the Syrian people.
At Russia's request, the United Nations Security Council convened for a closed-door meeting to address the rapidly deteriorating situation in Syria. Prior to the meeting, several council members spoke to the press, sharing their nation's positions on how best to address the crisis.
We are following the situation very closely, and we want to see the situation stabilized as soon as possible. And we do hope that an inclusive political process can be initiated as soon as possible. And the factions and parties in Syria should take the interests of the people as their priority.
In addition to China's concerns, the UK's representative highlighted the significant diplomatic efforts already underway, stressing the need for collaboration among key global and regional players to support the Syrian people and their aspirations for a better future.
These things require a lot of actors, so there's been a huge amount of diplomacy over the weekend with phone calls and meetings. So I think there's a lot of diplomacy going on. It needs to include the P5, it needs to include countries of the region, but ultimately it's about the Syrian people and getting behind them and their aspirations for a better future.
The collapse on Assad's regime has marked the end of a long civil war, but the path to peace remains uncertain as efforts to stabilize the country and rebuild continue.
The lightning overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad left Syrians, countries in the region and world powers nervous on Tuesday about what comes next as the rebel alliance took its first step in the government transition.
The lightning overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad left Syrians, countries in the region and world powers nervous on Tuesday about what comes next as the rebel alliance took its first steps in a government transition. With the mood in Damascus still celebratory, Assad's Prime Minister Mohammed Jalali on Monday agreed to hand power to the rebel-led Salvation Government, an administration based in the rebel-held territory in the northwest Syria. The main rebel commander Ahmed al-Shara, better known as Abu Muhammad al-Golani, met with Jalali and Vice President Faisal Mekdad to discuss the transitional government. Jalali said the handover could take days to carry out. Al Jazeera television reported the transitional authority would be headed by Mohammed al-Bashir, who has headed the Salvation Government. The steamroller advance of the militia alliance was a generational turning point for the Middle East. In a separate development, Israel's forces entered southern Syria, a move condemned by Egypt, Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia said the move would ruin Syria's chances of restoring security. However, Israel's officials stated that the presence of its troops in Syria is temporary. Regional security sources and officers within the now-fallen Syrian army said heavy Israeli airstrikes continued against military installations and air bases across Syria overnight, destroying dozens of helicopters and jets, as well as Republican Guard sets in and around Damascus. Meanwhile, oil prices rose more than 1% on Monday, partly on concerns that instability in Syria, which is not a major oil producer, could raise regional tensions, analysts said. Qatari diplomat spoke with the Syrian rebels officials on Monday and officially briefed on the developments as regional states raced to open contact with the group. There were tentative signs of a return to order. Syria's banks will reopen on Tuesday, and the oil ministry called on all employees in the sector to head to work on Tuesday, adding that protection will be provided to ensure their safety.
The world is watching Syria, especially those who left the country to seek refuge in Turkey during the civil war. Now, amid the collapse of Assad's government, many Syrians are finally returning to their homeland.
At the Cilvegözü border gate in Hatay, families and individuals gathered early Monday, eagerly waiting to cross back into Syria. To ensure smooth processing, gendarmerie teams managed the flow of people with an additional checkpoint set up 5 kilometers from the border. Many expressed joy and relief at the chance to return home after years in exile. Some had lived in Turkey for over a decade, building new lives but always longing for their homeland. Others described the end of the conflict as a moment of liberation and expressed deep gratitude to Turkey for its support during difficult times. Families with young children and the elderly were among those making the journey, cherishing the opportunity to rebuild their lives in Syria.
Countries around the world are reacting to a historical development in Syria. Decades of Bashar al-Assad's rule have come crashing down, marking a serious political shift that has become a center of global attention.
The world is reacting to the monumental collapse of Bashar al-Assad's decades-long rule in Syria. Leaders and officials from across the globe have shared their hopes for the country's future, emphasizing the need for peace, stability, and inclusive governance.
As we all turn to the question of what comes next, the United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity to manage the risks.
From Washington to Berlin, leaders expressed cautious optimism and hope for reconciliation, while the German chancellor called the end of Assad's rule of a good news for now.
Today we stand with all Syrians who are full of hope for a free, just and safe Syria. They fervently hope that there is now a chance to rebuild their country and embark on the long and difficult road to reconciliation.
As the situation draws more and more attention, regional powers are voicing their commitment to supporting Syria's stability.
In the coming process, we hope for a Syria where different ethnic and religious groups live under an inclusive understanding of government and in peace. We are ready to provide the necessary support for this.
The United Kingdom stresses the need for a political solution while safeguarding civilian lives.
It is a good thing that Assad is gone, a very good thing for the Syrian people. What we must also ensure as we go through this, the rejection of terrorism and violence, that civilians are protected, minorities are protected, and that can only be through a political process. That's what we're talking to allies in the region about at the moment.
The United Nations emphasized the importance of inclusivity in shaping Syria's future.
So I hope that within this current environment, that obviously there will be this inclusive, very inclusive dialogue that involves, we always talk about women, peace and security, that involves women, that involves young people, that involves each and every segment of the Syrian society.
Other global powers call for Syria's sovereignty and the voice of its people to be prioritized.
The future and destiny of Syria should be decided by the Syrian people. We hope all parties will find a political solution to restore stability and order.
We seek for the will of the Syrian people to prevail through democratic mechanisms. What the people of Syria desire must be realized.
As Syria embarks on a new chapter, the world watches closely. The coming days will be critical in shaping the nation's future.
Authorities have arrested Luigi Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, for the fatal shooting of United Health executive Brian Thompson outside a Manhattan hotel. Mangione, a highly educated Maryland native with engineering degrees, was found with a ghost gun silencer and disguise matching the killer's description. Police also discovered fake IDs and a handwritten document revealing his hostility toward corporate America. Mangione's weapon, assembled using a 3D printer, was linked to the crime, ending a 5-day manhunt. Mangione faces 5 charges, including forgery and firearm without a license, and was ordered held without a bail. The Netherlands has announced a 6-month extension of border controls affecting both land and air travel within the Schengen zone. This decision is part of a broader effort to tackle illegal immigration, following similar measures in neighboring Germany.
The Dutch government has introduced stricter border controls starting December 9th. The new controls, set to last for 6 months, aims to curb illegal immigration as part of a package of measures proposed by the right-wing PVV party. This allows Germany's move in September to suspend parts of the Schengen Agreement for the same purpose. The Dutch government is also tightening asylum policies, including limiting asylum permits to 3 years and restricting family reunification for asylum seekers. Minister of Asylum and Migration Marjolein Faber emphasized that the extended mandate for border checks will allow Dutch authorities to manage migration more effectively.
There are always people who always have a reason not to do something, but I won't be deterred. We're taking those measures because I want that inflow to go down, and this is one of the measures to start achieving that, and I will not let that stop me. I have confidence in the Marachus. They are working efficiently. In fact, we work in the same way as our German counterparts.
Despite opposition from some groups, the Dutch government remains determined to implement its migration policies.
Austria has lifted its veto on Romania and Bulgaria joining the Schengen free travel area. This step allows both countries to become full members of the Schengen zone. Austria initially opposed their full integration, citing concerns over illegal immigration. With air and maritime checks already lifted, Romania and Bulgaria are set to fully join Schengen, allowing free movement across both air and land borders. The final approval is expected at Thursday's EU Justice and Home Affairs Council meeting. In face of recent escalations, South Koreans keep on protesting in the streets of Seoul to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol.
Thousands of demonstrators in Seoul braved the cold once more to demand South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol to be impeached on Monday, saying it was not enough to just apologize for trying to impose martial law last week. Yoon survived an impeachment vote in parliament on Saturday after his botched attempt at imposing martial law last Tuesday, and tens of thousands of South Koreans then rallied to demand his resignation.
The president's statement cannot be that short and just saying sorry. It's not supposed to end just like that. The people were so scared that night after martial law was declared and couldn't sleep well for the last few days, but he just tried to end it with few words. I don't think it's the right way to end the situation, and I'm very disappointed about that.
Protesters expressed anger and disappointment over Yoon's latest statement, where he said he was leaving his political and legal fate to his ruling People Power Party, but did not resign. Yoon, several cabinet ministers, military commanders and police officials face criminal investigations over their actions. The police and the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials have all launched probes into Yoon and the officials, seeking to pursue charges of insurrection and abuse of power, among others.
Prosecutors must conduct a thorough investigation on Yoon Suk-yeol. And for everybody that can, I think all of the people should gather at the protest to impeach Yoon, instead of letting him resign. We should do a referendum and impeach him.
The Korea Confederation of Trade Unions, who led Monday's protest, estimated about 30,000 people rallied again near Parliament. In light of recent events, Yoon Suk-yeol has faced a travel ban after establishing martial law for several hours before lifting it completely. The South Korean president is facing potential impeachment again, despite the fact that his party has decided not to vote for it. Demonstrations all across South Korea keep on happening, and with a crashing stock market, the country is currently not in the best of positions.
And now to Georgia. Tensions are boiling over in Tbilisi as mass protests grip the city, calling for political accountability and reform. Our correspondent Leila Rahimli has more about the latest updates from the scene.
Hello, I am reporting on the current developments in Georgia, where the political situation is intensifying ahead of the upcoming presidential election. The primary focus this week is the election of new president, scheduled for Saturday, 14 December. This election is historic as it will be the first time in Georgia's history that the president is chosen by an electoral college instead of the direct popular vote. The ruling Georgian Dream Party has put forward Mikhail Kavelashvili, a former football player and MP, as the sole candidate. With the ruling Georgian Dream Party dominating the electoral college, his approval seems inevitable. The Speaker of Parliament, Shalva Paposhvili, has assured that the Central Election Commission will oversee the process in the Parliament building to ensure a smooth election. Opposition voices, however, are growing louder. The opposition TV channel Mutavari Arhi claims that the government is planning to impose a state of emergency and curfew on 14 December, the suppressed dissent. They also allege that the authorities aim to clear Rustaveli Avenue of protests by 12 December to prevent demonstrations during the election period. Adding to the tension, the ruling party has targeted the current president Salome Zurabishvili. If Zurabishvili refused to step down, Georgian Dream may open a criminal case against her. This development underscores the deepening political crisis in the country. Kavelashvili, the sole presidential candidate, has openly criticized Zurabishvili, accusing her of insulting and neglecting the Georgian constitution and continuing to violate it today. He has vowed to restore the dignity of the presidency. Meanwhile, the European Union has expressed grave concerns about the situation in Georgia. EU Ambassador Pavel Herchinsky has warned that the recent clash between police and protesters, coupled with the government's decision to suspend EU accession talks until 2028, could lead to sanctions against Georgian officials. Herchinsky has mentioned that these measures could include suspending visa-free travel for Georgian citizens. He emphasized that the EU cannot ignore the violence and brutally displayed in recent weeks. Mamuka Midznaraza, the executive secretary of Georgian Dream, defended the government's actions, stating that the suspending EU talks was necessary to prevent unrest and protect national interest. He accused the opposition of trying to delegitimize government institutions and incite instability before the new year or other international political milestones. The autumn session of parliament ends on 13 December and the presidential election will take place on 14 December in Georgia. If all goes as planned, the inauguration of the new president will be held on 29 December. However, the protest, opposition, accusations and international security, the political landscape remains tense. And this is the latest updates for now. I am Leila Rahimli reporting from Tbilisi, A News.
Google announced it has overcome a key challenge in quantum computing with a new generation of chip, solving a computing problem in 5 minutes that would take a classical computer more time than the history of the universe.
Like other tech giants such as Microsoft and International Business Machines, Alphabet's Google is chasing quantum computing because it promises computing speeds far faster than today's fastest systems. While the math problem solved by the company's Santa Barbara, California Quantum Lab does not have commercial applications, Google hopes quantum computers will one day solve problems in medicine, battery chemistry, and artificial intelligence that are out of reach for today's computers. The results released Monday came from a new chip called Willow that has 105 qubits, which are the building blocks of quantum computers. Qubits are fast but error-prone, because they can be jostled by something small as a subatomic particle from events in outer space. As more qubits are packed onto a chip, those errors can add up to make the chip no better than a conventional computer chip. So since the 1990s, scientists have been working on quantum error correction. In a paper published in the journal Nature on Monday, Google said that it has found a way to string together the Willow chip's qubits so that error rates go down as the number of qubits go up. The company also says it can correct errors in real time, a key step forward making its quantum machines practical.
That's all we have for now. Thank you for joining us and keep watching A News.